Good morning, fellow Singaporeans. In the span of the last 2 weeks, Singapore has experienced two cataclysmic events which will inevitably shape the future of the political and legal climate in Singapore. We had the passing of one of our founding fathers, Mr. Kuan Yew, and the widely scrutinized Amos Yee video which casted aspersions against the PAP and Mr. Lee himself, even celebrating his death and hurling vulgarities at Mr. Lee Kuan Yew and his family. We must also not forget the recent events in the Singapore landscape. The CPF protest by social activist Roy Neng, the repeated attempts at constitutional arguments in the Supreme Court by lawyer M. Ravi, and another team of lawyers in front of the same court in their attempt to decriminalize homosexuality pursuant to under Section 377A of the Penal Code, and the loss of Aljunied GRC to the opposition. In its totality, we are talking about a turning point in Singapore's history. In this speech, I will address two main points. The first is to request all Singaporeans to let bygones be bygones. Forgive Amos Yee. Leave him alone. Be gracious and he will have a bright future ahead. Second, I will make some critical comments about the relatively volatile Singapore political scene in this turning point of our history. I will address my first point in this video and the entirety of the second point in a subsequent video. I will expound on my first point. I would beseech all Singaporeans to give Amos Yee and his family some space. Given some space, I postulate that Amos Yee will, in fact, have a bright future ahead of him. The Amos Yee saga needs to end somewhere. The legal endpoint will be many months or years from now. The pre-trial conference, the PTC, is scheduled in mid-April, and the legal mechanism has only barely started. With this, the laws of sub judice kick in, and I would urge all law-abiding Singaporeans not to publicly discuss this case to avoid affecting the administration of justice. It is to be reminded that sub judice amounts to contempt of court and is punishable with imprisonment. We should have a social media endpoint now. On Facebook, YouTube, Storm, etc. First, Amos Yee is first and foremost a fellow Singaporean. Having noticed the emotional barrage of acerbic comments against him, I have realized how harsh, fierce, and even appalling the ground reaction could be, and this is regrettable. Vitriol was constantly hurled at this teenager in the over 6,000 comments in his YouTube video, which garnered over 500,000 views. For every like, there were 5 dislikes. I was all along careful not to make any snide remarks and to keep the uploaded videos confined to parody, satire, and entertainment. But I must admit that I might have gone too far. With that, I sincerely apologize to Amos Yee and his family. But I must admit that it is really unfortunate that we treat our fellow Singaporeans in this manner when, as I have noticed, foreigners tended to show a diametrically opposite response, i.e., they were much more sympathetic to his cause. Second, Amos Yee is just a 17-year-old teenager with a yet-to-be-determined future. Let's make his a bright future, instead of a future where he causes harm to society. Pertinently, teenagers are highly impressionable and are easily brainwashed to do such things like fighting on the side of the ISIS. Amos Yee is no exception. A fortiori, I have noted that Amos Yee takes very extreme views, having listened patiently to most of his YouTube videos. They were admittedly, for the most part, more interesting than mine. As teenagers, we make mistakes. I myself, I was a delinquent in the past, getting involved in fights and hurling Hokkien and English vulgarities at others, even in each and every sentence that I speak. Let us remember that we do regret many of our actions and inactions in our youth. Amos Yee may not regret his actions now, but he might do so in due course. Mr. Lee himself said that a person's personality is moldable until 30. Do we want to shape Amos Yee into an extremist, a terrorist, an anarchist, or a political nuisance? This is a worrying possibility given his extreme mindset, apparent lack of empathy and remorse, and above borderline intelligence. We do not want this. Case in point, many hackers were highly intelligent people who fell on the wrong side of the law. And many of them, after being caught, reformed, they turned to the good side, trying to infiltrate government systems so that systems' integrity can be improved. We have also heard of many delinquents like Bill Gates who have turned over a new leaf. We want Amos Yee to contribute to society, to teach and guide our younger generation, to give us an alternative voice in Parliament, or even fight on the side of the PAP to provide us with an improved system of governance. As such, it would be ideal if the opposition or the ruling party could cultivate him after the legal endpoint is reached. He should put his admirable guts, his advanced linguistic abilities, deeply held convictions about life and society, and above all his on-stage charisma to good use. We do not want a wayward youth who causes harm and terror to our nation. We want him to focus his energies in the right direction. Third, he has a family and a family deeply torn by this incident. His father is an IT professional and his mother is a teacher. His father has since apologized on his behalf. His mother has commented that he is beyond control. As this saga drags on, I worry for the reputation and employability of his father and mother. As a tutor, I know how hard it can be to discipline children. We should not blame his parents for the episode, but rather provide them with a helping hand to groom this impressionable talent. Do we want a broken family, ashamed over their child's actions? Or contra, do we want a happy family who has put behind this unfortunate incident, apologized for it, moved on, now being proud of their son's achievements in the film, tutoring, and or political arenas? Fourth, let us admit that he is indeed talented. In my videos, I might have cast aspersions against his abilities because, like most of us, I was angered by his unthinkable and atrocious comments, his audacity, and most of all, being obstinate in the face of growing criticism. Let us not be guided by emotions and rationally analyze. Here we have a potential Singaporean talent whom we can groom to be who knows our nation's next Prime Minister. He is vocal, charismatic, simple-minded, which has probably caused him to be influenced by anti-government elements on the internet, and he has a firm conviction in his own deep-seated beliefs in the ideals of democratic government, free speech, and the betterment of the lower class citizens in Singapore. Why import foreign talent when we can mold this homegrown child actor and blogger? Children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Fifth, the Amos Yee saga has spilled overseas, not just YouTube comments. If you were to go to Google, type Amos Yee and click on news, you would immediately note the international press coverage he has received. Do we want foreigners to think that Singapore is an unforgiving, ungracious, and negative society? With a government which focuses on economic growth more than anything else, the unhappiness levels and stress levels in Singapore has reached a record high. Instead of donning our crash helmets of anonymity, or lack thereof, and shooting cyber daggers at a helpless teenager, let us take out our stress with a stress ball, or with sports. I would like to make a final concluding remark. Amos Yee has a bright future. I took a few days off to settle my daily matters, including my upcoming trip to Korea and Russia, and my new tuition assignments. When I came back to this matter, I developed a new perspective. Here we have a child who has all the soft skills. That is, his work ethic in cutting and recutting his videos, which I would never have the patience for. His deeply seated views, which most Singaporeans don't have. Most of us just sit on the fence. And his public speaking abilities. And even his hard skills. He had an L1 R5 of 11 at O-levels, and it's really a pity that he chose to drop out. We want to carve him to be an influential and successful figure in our political and entertainment landscape. He even has the heart to help out the poor in Singapore, given his concern about poverty rates and taxation in Singapore. Amos Yee might have miscalculated. He might have thought that he can get away with a stern warning from the AGC, given his age and the international scrutiny on Mr. Lee's passing, and then proceed with his newfound fame and infamy to be the YouTube blogger as always aspired to be. He was wrong in that the legal mechanism kicked in. But let us not be wrong too, just like how he was wrong. Let us, as mature Singaporeans, give him a chance. The household name of Amos Yee, let him use his newfound fame to benefit our country and our fellow countrymen and women. I urge Amos to apologize to all Singaporeans. Not only would this mitigate his sentence, most likely mitigate his sentence, it would also ensure that this saga is but a dire pause in this promising teen's future. I am sure that Mr. Lee, with his respectable graciousness, which accompanied with his growing age, would accept his apology